Hello, and welcome back. This is a very different type of video for me. So you see, on April 7th, Colossal Biosciences unveiled the very first de-extinct species. Remus and Romulus, two newly born direwolves, animals that had been extinct for over 10,000 years, they claimed that they had birthed a reintroduction of these animals that would help solve our planet's biodiversity crisis that has been directly caused by human interference in our planet and all of its ecosystems. But that isn't really what happened, is it? No, the process in which they created these animals was by using DNA samples of modern-day gray wolves and altering those genes to make them more similar to what they perceived were the genes of direwolves. What they thought were the closest modern analog to direwolves. It's going to be important in a second. There's a problem in this, because in 2021, it was discovered that direwolves' closest modern ancestors are not gray wolves, but instead they are jackals, so African jackals to be specific. So why is this? That's the question. Why did the scientists at Colossal use gray wolves as their subjects rather than African jackals, an animal that is closer related to the extinct direwolf? The answer lies in pop culture. That's just the way that it is, okay? So, the most popular depiction of direwolves in the general public's eyes comes from the popular TV series Game of Thrones. You may have heard of it. A show in which features animals that are large white versions of gray wolves, which they refer to as direwolves. And if you look at the animals that Colossal has made, they are larger, white, gray wolves. So, we look at modern reconstructions of direwolf, on the other hand. Typically they're seen as brown or red, more closely resembling, again, jackals or red wolves, not gray ones. And, you think about the ecosystem in which direwolves actually lived, and it's much closer to the African savannas that you find in Kenya than it is the world of Westeros, or whatever it's called. I haven't watched Game of Thrones. My friends watch it. Not my thing. Point is, icy landscape, savanna from Africa. That's important. Prehistoric, specifically Pleistocene California, did resemble a savanna. That's why you have Columbian mammoths around, you had American lions, all sorts of animals that lived in Pleistocene era California are animals that have similar analogs to that of modern day Africa. And the environment reflected this. It was pretty similar to a savanna. It was not a snowy tundra. And so creating these false direwolves, as I will refer to them for the rest of this video, produces a problem. Because these animals would not survive and also would not exist in the time in which direwolves truly existed. Because these animals, these pure white wolves, could only really realistically exist in nature, had it been Pleistocene America, if it was a case of albinism. So, who cares though? The goal is to bring back biodiversity, so if this isn't a direwolf, if this is just a new species, is that really a bad thing? Is it really a bad thing to try and promote biodiversity in the Americas because of how much we have messed up the wolf population in our current country, or in this, place that once used to house actual direwolves? So what's the issue with creating this new species of sorts? It's an attempt to bring back biodiversity, right? No, that is just untrue. Suppose that you released a population of these false direwolves into the wild. They would not help in the diminishing wolf population, but rather they would perpetuate it. We're talking about bringing back a population of an extinct species that is not suited for what nature has built. Everything within nature falls into a certain niche. Everything is held within a very delicate balance. When human beings came onto the scene, we offset that balance. That is a thing that we did. And that's why animals started going extinct, like our woolly mammoths, like direwolves, and on and on and on. So what exactly is the issue here? We're not talking about bringing back a population of endangered species. We're not talking about making more gray wolves. We're talking about bringing in a new animal. This is not as simple as just taking what we have, which we're losing, and bringing it back. We're talking about taking something that doesn't belong and pushing it into the equation. But what's the issue with that? See, nature selected dire wolves for extinction thousands of years ago, and suddenly just throwing them back into a modern ecosystem is something that will have unprecedented outcomes, as these animals have, one, not adapted to live in a modern climate. So assuming that this population even survives, that's situation number N. This population of false dire wolves, we release them and they don't just die immediately since they're not in captivity. Assuming that, they will need to compete with modern day gray wolves for the same food sources and the same territories. And this competition may not bode well for our actual gray wolf population, as these false dire wolves are genetically designed to be larger and will possibly have an easier time hunting down similar prey as our gray wolves. Because if they are being designed to fill that same niche, it's not really a thing that they can do, because that niche is already taken. So it'll end up being competition. Competition, someone ends up losing. That's how it is. These animals are designed to be bigger. You're basically, it's like when you go to the cafeteria at your university, you go to the dining hall and every single table is full. You want to sit down, you need to take someone's seat. We're essentially introducing a larger animal that will likely need more space than the animals we already have, and likely need more food to sustain a larger build, and you're just throwing it into the mix again. So we're talking about the introduction of an invasive species on epic proportions, because not only this is a species with no natural environment, this is a species that we have it's not from Earth. It's not from this planet. Like, we made it. Nature didn't. So suddenly you're just gonna throw it in there. It has no idea of what anything is or what it's supposed to be. Furthermore, this is an animal that has no natural instincts and cannot be nurtured with any natural instincts because it doesn't have a mother. These are animals that we're creating in labs, and they're going to be raised in captivity. So we are introducing a species of animals that has no idea what it is, and you're just going to throw it out there to compete with an already, endangered species. But here's the other thing. These are wolves that are pure white like snow. As our temperature heats up, we get less and less snow. This is why polar bears are on the decline. They're not really suited to hunt anymore because there's less snow, there's less places for them to hide and ambush their prey. As such, they're starving. With these false dire wolves with pure white coats, let's assume, they go out there, they can't survive. We can't just throw something out into nature and just expect it to survive. So upon such a thing, of these animals not being able to assimilate into the natural world, a new question is raised, which is, who is responsible for it? This is a brand new species, or this opens the door for brand new species to be made by corporations. Who takes responsibility for them? When they're about to go extinct, do we need to protect them? Or does it fall onto the corporations? It's a problem that we don't have an answer to, because let's say that they can't survive out there, you now have a population of animals with no habitat. You can't just kill them because we made them. It's unethical to just kill them. But what is the ethical decision? That's the question that we're all pondering. How do we ethically treat this creation of something that isn't from nature? The answer is tricky. You either put them in zoos, or you put them in theme parks, or God forbid you sell them as pets. But at the end of the day, these are novelty animals. These are not animals that are meant to survive outside of, captivity. These are animals that are meant to remind people of a TV show they watched. These are not real. This all harkens back to that Chickenosaurus thing from a few years back, which thankfully they ran into a roadblock on, and hopefully they ceased production of that. But the question of what do you do after you have it? With the Chickenosaurus, you have just a mutated chicken that has a tail and some teeth. And it's not a dinosaur. It's an avian dinosaur, but it's not a non-avian dinosaur that they're selling it as. So then what? The question is, you put it in a zoo and it's now on display as nothing more than entertainment, and it's nothing more than something that a company just buys and sells. And I would argue that that's not a very ethical thing to do with a life that you have just created. Like, this is a thing that doesn't exactly deserve this kind of treatment. Like, these animals didn't choose to be put here. We have placed them here, and you're going to put them into a critically endangered status. And for a company that is trying to promote itself as an environmentalist company, that's a problem. So what Ben Lamb and the team at Colossal Biosciences did is create genetically engineered theme park monsters, and nothing more and nothing less. They aren't de-extinctioning, or whatever buzzword you want to use. They're not doing that. They're not de-extinctioning any species. Instead, they are creating an entirely new species that will only exist to die or to be our entertainment. So to treat a living thing like that, I would argue, is highly unethical. But let's look at the people who are involved in this company. We have people who mention their friendship with Elon Musk. And as of recording this, it is slated that Ben Lamb, one of the founders of Colossal, is set to appear on the Joe Rogan podcast. The announcement video released alongside this, discovery or this innovation or this advancement, whatever they want to call it, is filled with AI-generated paleo art, which is bad for a plethora of reasons I can't get into in a single video of a reasonable length. When I've brought up this issue to peers, to colleagues, anyone really, when showing them, these false direwolves, the responses are always generally oohs and ahs, because let's be real, it's just they're just puppies. These are just big puppies. No one's gonna say no to let's make more puppies. That's just not gonna happen. Even people within the scientific community who I have spoken to, agree that this is a huge concern, that this is a major problem. But then you show them the video of the little pups playing around. Oohs and ahs. In the long term, these puppies are going to be catastrophic, and I'm left pondering, why would you do this? Why attempt to, in their words, heal the world by bringing back a long extinct species and not current species that are in the red zone, like our gray wolves or like our red wolves or like the black rhinoceroses? They have claimed that they have developed technology to clone animals from a single blood sample, and they're using it to alter genes to make a new animal with the traits of extinct animals, not a GMO that is designed to better withstand rising temperatures or anything like that. You're creating a new animal that doesn't fit at all. Nature is very delicate. You start playing with things and it breaks. In the video that they released, they used Jenga as an analogy. You take the pieces out, the tower starts to shake. Let's say you put an extra piece in where it doesn't belong. The tower shakes even more. That's how it works. They have the ability to clone all these animals, and instead of reintroducing a population of more gray wolves to, boost numbers, they're just creating these novelty animals that they're going to package and patent and put on a plastic lunchbox and then sell it and sell it. They're going to sell it. And that's not good. It's unclear whether they've patented these animals. Remember, I didn't say they haven't. I've said that it's unclear. But let's continue. The cynical take on all of this is that this is an attempt to scamming people into donating into an empty cause under the guise of saving the world. Colossal is a for-profit organization that has executives who exist within the entertainment industry, such as George R.R. Martin and Peter Jackson and Michael Dougherty, as well as some political connections too, who can use their powers to maybe help Colossal make more of these. Say that they can't introduce these wolves into the wild, and they want to patent them and sell them for consumers who want a cute little pet, or who want that little Game of Thrones experience of owning a dire wolf. The ethical concern of can you patent a living thing has been brought up many times. And these people have political connections. Who, you might be asking? Well, it's a woman named Aurelia Skipwith, who was appointed by President Donald Trump as the Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Department of the Interior back in his 2016 term. A politician who was very widely praised by conservatives and disliked by environmentalists due to her support for Donald Trump's rollbacks on environmental policies that included protections on monarch butterflies as well as many migratory birds. The Center for Biological Diversity stated, Aurelia Skipworth has been working in the Trump administration all along to end protection for billions of migratory birds, gut endangered species safeguards, and eviscerate national monuments. Skipwith will always put her interests of her old boss, Monsanto, and other polluters ahead of America's wildlife, and help the most anti-environmental administration in history do even more damage. This is the woman who works for this company. She is one of the people who is backing this project. You look around this project, it's a lot of conservatives, and it's a lot of people who fundamentally don't understand how nature works. You can ask a middle schooler what happens if you introduced a T-Rex into the African savannah. It's catastrophic because it's not fit for that kind of animal in any regard. So introducing a species that nature didn't make, introducing a species that we invasively placed into the world, and you guise it under the advancement of science. What you call discovery, I call the rape of the natural world. This is a story that's going to continue to unfold over the years. And I wasn't expecting this to go so deep into the US government and all these connections. I wanted to get this video out quickly, and as such, I didn't want to do, or I couldn't do all the research I needed to create a bigger expose. The point of this video is to inform you that what they're doing, I argue, in my opinion, is wrong. It is not ethical to create life that you have no intention of taking care of. And it is not ethical to throw that out into the world and take people's money and guise it as some kind of way of helping. It's not. This is going to do more harm than good in the long run if these plans of assimilation go to fruition. Direwolves are separated from all modern day animals by 10,000 years. We don't have the slightest idea of what's going to happen when you throw those back into the mix or something that fills a similar niche. You can't make a 40 foot long, 20-ton chicken or bird of prey and unleash it out there. You unleash a population like that, it's catastrophic for everything that lives there. We cannot allow those figures in the shadows to perpetuate the continuation of this violation of our environment and to continue to burn this planet and allow for vital species to die, all for the sake of them making profit and making novelty animals so they can sell them and post pictures of them on Twitter, or X as they like to call it, those fucking weirdos. No more. No more of this. We need to, as a community of people who are invested in the environment and do want a better future, to focus on preservation of the environment that we have. We cannot allow people who are willing to roll back protections on our animals that are going endangered. We cannot allow them to tell us what are the right and wrong species to bring back. The reason that they probably chose the direwolf is not just because of Game of Thrones, but it's because they're going to garner sympathy because they're the company that brought back extinct puppies. But they didn't. That's why information is so important. And it's one of the things that I care about with this channel is science communication. And I wish to communicate with all of you that scientifically, this is unethical. And this will bring about a worse age for the entire planet. We are talking about a catastrophe unlike anything that we've ever seen in history. Never before has a species been introduced by man to the planet and then thrust onto the world. We introduce species into habitats all the time. It's not a good thing. Invasive species are bad. And we want to get rid of them. So why solve the biodiversity crisis with an invasive species the likes of which this planet has never seen? And with that, I leave you on that grim note. And I'm going to continue to research all this, and hopefully this can develop into a story that will bring an end to this madness, and we can push towards creating a better future, not only for ourselves, but for the planet as a whole and all life on it. So thank you for watching. And I really hope that things get better.